You wake up, before coffee, before your phone, before anything else, you reach for a toothbrush. It's automatic, almost involuntary. 2 minutes, twice a day, for your entire life. Now imagine going 300,000 years without doing that. Not once. That's roughly how long anatomically modern humans have existed, and for almost all of that time, nobody brushed anything. No bristles, no paste, no mint flavor, just teeth, mouths, and whatever food happened to be stuck between them. Here's the disruption. In 2021, researchers examining Neanderthal remains from a site called El Cedron in northern Spain found dental plaque so well preserved they could sequence DNA from it. What they found wasn't decay and destruction. In many specimens, the teeth were in remarkably good shape. Some ancient populations had lower rates of cavities than people living today. That breaks the assumption completely. We assume ancient means worse. Worse hygiene, worse health, worse mouths. But the data doesn't support that. In some ways, their teeth were healthier than yours. This is going to change how you think about brushing itself, not as a triumph of modern science, but as a patch for a problem modern life created. Let's start with a place called Abri Patade, a rock shelter in France's Dordogne region, occupied roughly 20,000 years ago during the Upper Paleolithic. Anthropologists studying the teeth recovered there found something specific: grooves. Tiny repetitive scratches on the enamel, running in consistent directions. Not random damage. Patterns. Researchers now believe these marks came from something called toothpicking, using thin, hard objects like grass stems, bone splinters, or twigs to physically dig debris out from between teeth. Some skeletal samples from this era show these grooves on nearly every adult specimen examined. That's not an occasional habit. That's routine behavior, repeated so often it left a permanent mark on bone-hard enamel. But here's where it gets stranger. Toothpicking wasn't the only tool. In 2003, a study published on Neanderthal remains from the site of Krapina in Croatia, dated to around 130,000 years ago, found similar wear patterns. Neanderthals. A different species entirely, doing something remarkably close to what modern humans were doing tens of thousands of years later, independently. Two separate hominin lineages, separated by enormous stretches of time and geography, both developed the same basic instinct. Get the food out from between your teeth. That's not a coincidence. That's a signal. It suggests the discomfort of stuck food is old. Older than language, older than agriculture, maybe older than our species itself. And if the discomfort is that old, the question isn't whether ancient humans cared about their teeth. It's why the outcome, a mouthful of cavities, became so much more common only after they started doing something we now consider progress. That progress has a name, and archaeologists can point to almost the exact moment it happened. Around 10,000 BCE, in the region we now call the Fertile Crescent, parts of modern-day Iraq, Syria, and Turkey, human groups began farming. Wheat, barley, domesticated grains, processed and eaten daily instead of occasionally. This is the Neolithic agricultural revolution, and it's usually taught as the moment humanity leveled up. Here's the problem. A landmark study led by bioarchaeologist Alan Cooper, published in Nature Genetics in 2013, analyzed ancient dental calculus from 34 prehistoric skeletons across Europe. The team tracked oral bacteria across roughly 7,500 years. What they found was a mouth in decline. As diets shifted from wild foods to soft, starchy, farmed grains, the bacterial makeup of the human mouth changed with it, shifting toward the exact bacterial strains responsible for cavities and gum disease today. Hunter-gatherers, eating tougher, fibrous, less processed food, had mouths that looked nothing like the ones farming produced. Their bacterial ecosystem was more diverse, more stable, less prone to the acid-producing bacteria that eat through enamel. In other words, the healthier ancient teeth weren't despite the lack of brushing. They were healthier partly because of what wasn't in the diet yet. That's not the whole story, though. Because agriculture didn't just introduce soft carbohydrates, it introduced something else. Density, villages, then towns, more people, living closer together, sharing food, water, and eventually, bacteria. A 2017 study analyzing calculus from British archaeological sites, spanning from the Mesolithic period through the Industrial Revolution, found that oral bacterial diversity didn't just drop once, it dropped twice. Once during the shift to agriculture, and again more dramatically during industrialization when refined sugar and processed flour became everyday staples rather than luxuries. Two collapses in oral health, thousands of years apart. Same root cause each time. Food got softer, more processed, more available, and the mouth's bacterial balance got worse. So if farming was the first blow, industrial food was the second. And that raises an uncomfortable question about the toothbrush itself. If it showed up as a response to a problem, not as an unrelated act of hygiene, but a direct reaction to declining oral health, then the timing should line up. It does. And the story of how it lines up is stranger than you'd expect. The modern toothbrush, in something close to its current form, appears in England in 1780. A man named William Addis, sitting in prison, reportedly carved a bone handle and drilled small holes into it, threading through bristles from a guard's brush. Whether every detail of that story is exact or slightly embellished by history, the timing isn't in dispute. By the late 1700s, refined sugar consumption in Britain had risen sharply. Sugar, once a luxury good, was becoming a staple, and dental decay was rising right alongside it. Except there was a problem. Addis's invention didn't spread quickly. For over a century, toothbrushing remained a habit of the wealthy few. Mass adoption didn't happen until the 20th century, driven not purely by health concerns, but by marketing. After World War II, American soldiers who'd been required to brush daily in the military returned home with the habit fixed in place. Toothpaste companies seized the moment. Within a few decades, brushing twice a day went from unusual to unquestioned, treated less like a health choice, and more like a moral one. Something a clean, responsible person simply did. That's the twist sitting underneath your morning routine. Brushing your teeth isn't an ancient act of self-care humanity always practiced and only recently perfected. It's a comparatively recent invention, built to manage a problem that farming created, that industrial sugar made worse, and that marketing eventually turned into a daily ritual we now do without thinking. Ancient humans didn't brush their teeth because, for most of human history, their mouths didn't need what a brush provides. Their food was tougher. Their diets contained less sugar. Their bacterial ecosystems were more balanced. The toothpick, the twig, the occasional scrape of debris, that was maintenance for a mouth built for a different kind of eating. You brush because your food changed first. The mouth had to catch up. The habit came second. So the next time you stand at the sink running bristles over enamel, you're not performing some timeless human ritual. You're patching a hole that agriculture opened, that sugar widened, and that your own daily choices magnified across a species and multiplied across centuries made permanent. Hope you enjoy the video. See you in the next amazing video.